We're good to go, he says. I'm here with my friend Greg DeMarco, and we're still in the book series that we're doing, John Maxwell's book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. And we're starting the second section, which is actually called Connecting Practices. So we've gone, I think you could sort of say we've moved beyond the theory, and we're gone into what's practical. And we're in chapter 6, where the title of this is Connectors Connect on Common Ground. John likes those, what do they call them, alliterations or whatever, you know, when you have multiple words with the same letters.
Yeah.
Connectors connect on common ground. So how you been doing, Greg?
I'm good. I've just been a busy boy and doing a lot of different things, but back at it now. So this is fun. I always enjoy this as part of our week.
It's good. We're making a podcast, so we hope that wherever you are, you're enjoying it and that you actually are listening. You know, we try to, in our podcast, our purpose is to try to help people in their communication and their relationships, because in sales professionals, we oftentimes think that it's all about the product, and it's not always about the product. It's about the relationships that we build. So that's, kind of Greg and I's focus is helping you build better relationships and understand those relationships in a better way. And John Maxwell has great insight into some ways of communicating. So he talks about connecting, and one of the points he has is that connecting is intentional. We have to be intentional about our connecting. And how do you do that, Craig?
Well, I think that's probably one of the most important parts, is what your intentionality is towards someone, or whenever you want to talk to them or meet them or greet them or whatever you want to call it. I kind of look at, and I always have sort of look at common ground. And, I'll greet them and we'll talk and try and steer a conversation towards something that we both enjoy. Now, hopefully, whatever it is you're selling, if we're talking about sales, whatever you're selling is something you're interested in, which may be a certain piece of common ground for the people buying it. So yeah. I kind of go on that, but no, really, it's Maxwell always stresses that connections, the most successful connections you have with people have to do with experiences or beliefs or goals, something that you have in common with them. And I think it's important that we really sort of stress that in our own intentionality when we start to greet people is, what are some of the common things that we're into? And we can't make assumptions. We just can't. We've got to be a little more prepared, I think. And sometimes us human beings have a tendency to want to assume what other people are maybe understanding, or, what they're saying. And in essence, we have no freaking clue. We're taking a guess, and that kind of hinders things.
Yeah. He emphasizes that connecting with others doesn't happen by accident. We need to be intentional. I was thinking about a time when I went into a computer store, which will remain nameless. And I went into this computer and I was looking around for some help. I had my wallet in my hand and I was looking to connect with somebody, and I couldn't make eye contact with any of the individuals. They were sitting in groups together, talking to each other. There was multiple numbers of these people all around the building, but not one of them approached me, even though I was there looking intently at the product, but not one of them approached me. And I thought, they're not intentional. I thought, this is not good salesmanship. These guys need some training on how to greet people, because they were virtually ignoring the customer. Yeah. And I thought, that's not very good. As in the sales, they weren't being intentional at all. They were totally the opposite of that. That may be an extreme example, but I know most of our listeners would never do that, right?
Well, I hope not. But that's actually a very good example, because you do see that in a lot of retail stores, where I kind of likened it to poor training for the employees, because that's something that you have to really look at. But, listen, I mean, it's never easy if you have to understand that connecting is a much deeper thing than just looking at somebody and smiling. That might be the first step. But the reality is we need to understand where they're coming from and what's happening, which includes listening and asking the right questions, right?
Yeah, I think your comment there about smiling maybe being the first step, I think sometimes we forget that too.
Yeah.
And I'm probably one of the worst for that, because I get wrapped up in my own thoughts, in my own mind, and I can go around, looking like I'm, too deadly serious. And I had that one time where the guy thought that I was giving him the evil eye. But anyway, that's another story. I think I've told that story before, but that was interesting. So, but what can connecting well, what can it do for us? I mean, John talks about the ability to connect well, boosts our influence and the impact that we have in somebody's life. So how would you say that you've experienced that?
Well, listen, there's lots of things about connecting with people, especially if we're looking at it from the point of view of sales, right? So there's lots of things when it comes to connecting with people that aren't, I think, what I call, they're not obvious to a lot of people. And the first thing with it for me is obviously the smile and understanding. The whole point of it, I think, is to understand where they're coming from. And you can't do that without making some kind of connection in some way, shape, or form. Now, it all depends. Like, if we're looking at the real estate industry, for example, you've had an initial conversation. You may not have met them at first, right? And so what does that initial conversation entail? What is your goal for trying to get information from them? Are you just trying to make a connection, or is there a specific goal in mind? And I think these are things that we need to understand before we get involved.
Yeah, if you understand the purpose of your conversation, my friend Ray Yancana, he was my business partner, and when we owned the office together, he would always say that making the phone call was never about trying to make the sale. Making the phone call was always about trying to get an appointment to see them.
That's right.
And I think that's where we have to understand what is our purpose of that call, what is our purpose of that meeting, and develop a plan. Be intentional about what you're going to do, right?
But that's just it. That's what I always used to teach was, what is the purpose of the call? And everybody goes, well, obviously you want to try and sell them something. Well, no, it's not actually. The purpose of the first call for me was always to establish some kind of connection and to get an appointment. If it was on the phone, I always wanted to establish, what is sort of happening, what it is they're looking for, and then get a next step to something that's going to bring us down the right path.
I don't know why I'm recalling this story, but I had when I was the owner of the office, one of the local presidents of one of our local colleges, he would call us up and he would like us to donate money, right? So on occasion we did. So we would, then you get more frequent calls from them because you said yes once or twice. And anyway, he would oftentimes explain why he was calling. He was always, explained everything why he was calling, and then he'd ask for the donation, he'd ask for the order, and then when I'd say no, which I tried to do more often later, was when I said no, usually I'd say, well, I'd try to put him off, and I'd say, well, not now, maybe in a couple months, and then he'd immediately go to, well, when is a couple months? Can I call you on on this day? So he would actually take what I said, and then he'd end up saying, okay, a couple months is that's going to be, let's say, January. So how about if I call you on January 20th? And then he'd diarize it and he'd call me on that day. So
but that's good though.
Oh, he's very good at what he did, right?
Yeah.
So he wasn't pushy, and he would just listen to what I said, and and respond to what I said. So and it's always different, like raising funds and, for college and that kind of thing, and for charitable organizations is very much a sales job. And I think it's one of the more difficult types of sales jobs that we can have. It's one thing to try to sell something that somebody actually sees, that they might need. And it's another thing to actually try to create an interest in something, in an organization or in something where you feel, that they can benefit. Like, why would I benefit from supporting that college? Where was the benefit going to come from? So I had to believe in their purpose, so, and that's a different level of connection, right? So, but
Well,
I think when you're talking about connecting
yeah.
increases your influence, that's a big deal for if you're, in the fundraising business.
Well, and one of the things I used to sell online courses, and one of the things that I would approach when I was talking to people is obviously they were looking for information, but I wouldn't go for. I would tell them right up front, the purpose of this call is just for educational purposes to see if this is this is right for you, and then we can establish next steps to go forward. And is that okay with you? And then they go, yeah, that's so there's no pressure here. Let's just find out a little bit about what's going on. Why would you reach out to us? That's how I approached it. And my intention wasn't at all to sell them anything on that first call. My intention was, okay, where are you coming from? Why did you reach out to us? And what are you looking for? And can I even help you? I don't know if I can.
Yeah. They would have clicked on a link on a web page or something.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you got to figure out, okay, they put their hand up, said, yeah, that maybe sounds a little interesting, but then you got to go a little bit further.
Yeah. And that's how we used to deal with it that way. And, when you go into this intentionally and say, okay, what is my goal? What is it that I really need to do first? And always, in my opinion, it's to find out why they're reaching out or why they're interested in the first place. And you have to eliminate barriers. And those barriers are just by asking questions and showing interest in somebody else. You can't be indifferent about it. You can't. Being indifferent is failing to care about others' perspectives.
Yeah.
Which makes finding common ground nearly impossible, right? And arrogance is another destroyer of this. Maxwell talks about all this stuff. Is someone, if you're going into a conversation like better than they do, that's not really connecting with somebody. It's like, hey, I know what's going on, so let me tell you how it is. No, that doesn't work.
Yeah, that's more coercive.
Yeah.
But, you also have to have the energy, right? So you have to have the energy to be able to connect with somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're not energetic, you're not going to take the time to try to learn what's important to them. And you have, I think energy and intentionality are two, they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I agree with you. And being adaptable is another important part of connecting with them, right? You have to be able to adjust your approach with other people, right? And their interests, and what level of understanding do they have, and do you have, like, in order to bridge gaps that you might have in your conversation. But humility is a big part of it too, and valuing what others' opinions are.
Well, our world is fraught with people that feel that it's their purpose to espouse their opinion.
It's like I said too long ago to some people I was talking to, and I said, that's just my opinion. I was trying to sell them something, and I said, well, that's just my opinion, but you know how that goes. It's I'm not paying for it, so my opinion doesn't really matter. I said, in fact, it can be described as almost dangerous coming from me. And they both laughed. But what I was saying was basically, hey, this is just my opinion. It's more important that you guys find something comfortable for you. This is what you're looking for. You do it. You're paying it. You're paying for it. I'm not. So, and that's what a lot of people have to figure out too, is say, hey, are you paying the bills? But if you give them that understanding that, as a salesperson, that I'm not paying for this, you are, that builds trust.
Sure,
because they're sort of looking at you going, well, normally hear that from salespeople. But I mean, it's the truth.
Yeah.
They're more apt to believe you.
Yeah. No, that works. When you're connecting with people, it's important to have clarity as well in what you're saying. And I think when you have clarity, I was thinking about this. I'm supposed to do a little talk on Saturday, and I've been thinking a lot about the particular topic, and when I'm thinking about something that interests me, if I'm able to teach it or if I'm able to talk about it, then I know that I have more clarity. But sometimes we think that we have clarity about what we're talking about, but we really don't until we start talking about it. And then we realize that we don't have the clarity to talk about it. And maybe somebody might say, well, yeah, sure, listen to your guys now. But it's important for us to have clarity so that we know, what it is that we're talking about, and that we are able to communicate in clear and concise ways. Because without that, I mean, if you're ambiguous in the way you're talking, you're not going to connect with somebody. You have to have clarity.
Yeah, and that's where the preparation part comes in, as far as I'm concerned. Understanding what you're getting yourself into and being intentional about understanding that, right?
Yeah, I think maybe one of the biggest points, and I think one of your favorite points is about that it's all about the other person. And I think we can connecting with others and being intentional about it is all about the other person and actually caring what's important for them. And as salespeople, like you said, when you actually recognize that they're the ones that are paying for the product or they're paying for the service or whatever, so they're the ones that have to be willing to invest in that service. And that develops trust, but recognizing that is I think crucial in connecting and being intentional about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it is a critical part. You know what, Don, in the end, I think just making the effort by building the relationship on some kind of common ground, it requires a certain amount of empathy and understanding that everyone has their own perspective on things. And I think that's really important when we're trying to connect with others, is that they understand that we're not being pushy, we're not trying to pressure, but understand who they are and where they're coming from. And the more listen, if there's one piece of advice I can give is over the years, what I've learned when it comes to sales is it's not all the little fancy sayings you have when they have an objection, or you got to say this and you got to say that and all this bullshit. What it comes down to is really connecting on a human level with people. And that the whole sales process in and of itself is just a conversation. That's it. Like, if you just put yourself in this mindset that I'm going to have a conversation with someone, I'm going to actually get to bloody well know them. What do they want? What are their desires? And when people see that you're interested in them, because people love when you ask questions about them. They love it. Oh my God, this person's interested in me.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't believe it. Wow, let's have a conversation about me.
Yeah.
There you go.
And they like to talk about themselves. They like to talk about themselves. They like to talk about what they do. Yeah. They'd like to talk about their family. They like to talk about where they went on vacation.
Yeah.
All these things are different things that, sometimes we wonder, how do I have a conversation with somebody? But just think about what you like to talk about. You like to, we like to talk about hockey,
Yeah.
And right now it's, start of hockey season. So
yeah, I knew we were going to get on this conversation at some point.
Yeah, it started the hockey season. So all the Toronto Maple Leaf fans figured this is our year.
Yeah.
Right? So
well, of course, every year
they've been waiting since 1967. This is our year. Yeah.
See, I wonder sometimes if you actually just go on and start Googling all this stuff, so you have all these stats. And
No. I remember when they won the Stanley Cup the last time. I think Davy Keon actually scored the winning goal.
Oh, Davy Keon, yeah.
Yeah, no, those are the old names, or maybe it was Ron Ellis. Who knows? It was some of those guys. Anyway, but
when they win, I'll have a conversation for you.
Well, I have another friend that's Ontario, and he's lived in BC for over 30 years now, but he is a diehard Toronto Maple Leaf fan. Like, the beginning of the year, they're the greatest team in the world, right? So you can't convince him otherwise. And he just is very, very intense about his team. But it's kind of funny. But anyway, we digress. We've been talking about John Maxwell's book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. And today we're talking about connectors connect on common ground and how important it is to have common ground with the people that you're connecting with. So, Greg DeMarco, thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights. And we look forward to our next conversation, which will be, what's the topic next week?
I don't know. It's chapter 7.
Chapter 7. Connectors do the difficult work of keeping it simple.
There you go.
Whole KISS symbol, or KISS acronym. Anyway, there we go. So thank you. And
Thanks, Don.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thanks. We'll see you.
Take care.